Now, I have always liked raptors. Enough so that I have played this realistic dinosaur game for the last 7 years of my life. Most people, they like raptors. They probably seen Jurassic Park, got intrigued with how this dinosaur attacks, leaping onto people and dinosaurs and pouncing them. But for me, it was something else entirely that got me fanboying over these agile predators. And that would be their intelligence. I just loved how they were seemingly so much more intelligent than other dinosaurs and just became that much more dangerous because of it. From the ability to open doors, creating distractions, or flat out setting a trap, this was the stuff of nightmares that just piqued my interest. And I've always been trying to replicate their way of thinking into my gameplay, combined with knowledge about the mechanics of the game and, of course, some combat skills in the mix as well. This has led to me gaining a lot of experience on this particular dinosaur, and it's probably the reason why you guys have been watching my tutorials, as yeah, I am pretty much a fossil in this game. There's this one art, however, that I am still perfecting till this day, and which has always got some room to be, improved upon. And I dare say it is the toughest part of being a raptor, and that is pack leading. As it is your responsibility to keep the pack healthy. Your decisions will lead to victory or defeat. It all kind of rests on your shoulders. If you make a bad call, you lose a team member. If you make a good call, everybody eats. And I think it is really important for people to understand, like, what's going on with the thought processes, um, how I kind of measure my decisions, and how I essentially try to make the best ones at all times by factoring in everything from environment to the species that are around, the time of day, like at night, dilos, etc. And I think all these things, when you put them together, can be quite tough to navigate. Like it is a very dynamic process. And today I want to go over a few replays. In those replays, I will try to explain my thought processes, how I came to certain decisions, and maybe help some other pack leaders out there with how to shot call efficiently. I also add in, you know, the gameplay that took place so that you can see both POVs, like the replay shots, and of course the gameplay shots at the same time. I'll try to synchronize that so that you can see my POV, like the limited visibility you have. And yeah, let's just start somewhere, right? Here we are, simply moving towards Westro. It's quite dark. And we're essentially looking for things to hunt. Not all of them are full grown, so I'm being very cautious here, avoiding things when possible. And apparently there's a lot of stuff going on with a lot of Herreras in this area. I had no idea that they were there, but regardless I make the call, like we go wide around that so that we don't fall into that death trap. Something very tiny, but does prevent us from getting jumped on. I speeded it up because this is actually where I want to start from. Let me also disconnect the camera right here. Here we are just looking to see if there's something in the field. As you can see, there's nothing. This is what we also concluded at one point. So I make the call to have one of our little ones, I think this one, Yoda. Is that Yoda? That's Yoda, yeah. I tell him to scout ahead. See the Juvies and the subs, they're just way more fast and they have way more stamina. think one of these is Burrs. Although that looks like Sanoa. I think Burrs is right here. This is Burrs, yes. So here I say, Yoda, you scout ahead. And after that I give the command to Burrs to go back him up. The two little beans, good stamina, very good for scouting. So we utilize that. There's two small Herreras here, but yeah, didn't see them. I think this is where I tell him to do it. So he goes on ahead. And then I tell Burrs, like, yo, go back him up. And we have the two little beans scouting ahead. So essentially what their task is right now is to, just make a sighting. They're not allowed to actually engage. So let's say there's a big Sarah here walking down the path, and all they have to do is report that, and then we can set up an ambush further down the line. Inspired by the setting traps aspect of Jurassic Park, I guess. Well, that's what we would have done if that would have occurred. This is where Yoda calls out to me that he saw Sarahs fighting something. And then Nezzy calls out to me like, I see a Dilo. The moment she does, we do a very simple strategy of attack. Like, this is Nezzy, sees the Dilo, I flank it, and we start off an attack. The Dilo was distracted by Nezzy, and we're able to pin it down and end its life really quick. So that was a good thing. Even though it was pretty dark. I think the Venom is active right now, I'm not quite sure. But we managed to kill that relatively fast. There's a group of Sarahs over there, we know that they're there, so they have been mapped out. And we just try to get our food. There we go, there we have that one Sarah that comes out to check. Approaches our pack. We notice it. And a fight breaks out. We think it's only one Sarah at this point. So we engage. I imagine that Sarah has comms with the other Sarahs. It's not too long from now they will start to engage our group as well. Sarah's playing clever around the body buff. But we're trying to burn right through it. It gets in trouble. But as you can see in the distance, the other Sarahs quickly come to help it out. Now here's the important part, where you as a pack leader have to make a decision. Do you keep this fight going, because one Sarah is low? And in this situation, I just said like, we leave. Everybody on me, we disengage. We surrender the body. And nobody dies. We managed to keep all our members. And here we have the action. Sarah start to engage with the Dibbles. This makes a lot of commotion. Believe it or not, there's actually a Dryo here. And since Saras are like a really big threat to any Raptor pack, we kind of close in on the commotion at one point. And we just keep looking. Like, one of the Saras, if it gets hit, it will be an easy target. That is also pretty much what ends up happening. Here we have our scout, Yoda. No, wait, it's actually me. I'm already thinking, like, to give my pack a higher survivability chance, I need to, you know, be opportunistic. So what I'm looking for here now is for a Sarah to take damage, and then in the chaos I'll try to assassinate it. And this one is my target, since he gets far enough. I'm creeping up on it, and I miss my pounce, like a dummy. But distract the Sarah. And they are fighting another Dibble right over here. Now here I see this Sarah getting hit really hard. You got knocked over, etc. So what I do is very simple. I attack. I know which one is hurt. This one's trying to make me back off, but I know it's just distracting. Called out to my team members that one of them is really hurt, and I just go for him. Now he wants to get me off on a tree, but in the process loses his life to the Dibble, which is a W. And just like that, they lost the tap like a team member. And we're using the Dibbles. Like, using your terrain is one thing, but using other species is also a good idea. Now while all this is going on, we kind of swoop in, try to get the organs, so that we can feed the people who vomited from the first fight. And this is what I mean with Raptors hold grudges. They stole our food, they interfered with our prey, like with our corpse. We don't mind going out of our way. Here I tell them not to engage with the Dibbles, because look at this. This is just... yeah, you don't mess with this group. Nothing can kill them. Absolutely nothing. We take the goodies and we bring it to our one sick team member that is still resting in the distance. Should be around here somewhere. Yeah. Over here. Still healing vomit sickness with a dead goat. And we're basically bringing the organs over. Like, you have to work as a team. And save each other. And if you can make your Raptor pack work like that, like as a unit, where everybody looks out for one another, your survivability goes up like drastically. So that's really good. So that were a few really simple examples, like navigating around death traps and knowing the map and where things such as Herreras like to hang out. Delegating tasks so that everybody plays their part based on how much stamina they consume on, running and stuff. The subs is a good example. Knowing when to back off and not let ego get into the way. Taking advantage of situations in the most efficient way possible. But there is just way more that comes to look at this. For example, you also need to know like every matchup and the most efficient way of attacking every dinosaur. And I think we should, cover that next. Let's go over all the dinosaurs and how I would approach a fight with these dinosaurs. Now, first, it's really important to understand the limitations of the Raptor. Your damage output, like grossly put, is 1k per person, and you really need to play around that to be efficient and effective. Some individuals can deal more than 1,000 damage because they are just that good. However, this is pretty rare, and you should not expect this of everybody. Like, if you have a dream team and everybody can deal a whopping like 1.5, 2k damage on each hunt, yeah, you're gonna go places. However, it is better to just limit it to 1k. It's kind of the safety net so that you don't put too much responsibility on your members, because as the pack leader, you really have to think about their capacity. It's not about you. Like, an example, I can solo a Carno. I can probably squeeze in and solo a Sarah on a good day. And it has to be a really good day with the sun shining and all that shit. But that doesn't mean that all my pack members can do the same. So whenever you make your decisions as a pack leader, you need to factor that in. It's very important. And you need to create a safety net. And the safety net I like to put in is the 1k damage safety net. I expect 1k damage out of each of my members, what they're capable of doing. And you can, lower this threshold if you feel more comfortable with it. But 1k is a good one. And then you need to realize that you need to fine tune that with the HP that a creature has. So let's say a Tenno, 1.6 tons, that is 1600 HP. If I'm solo, I might be able to squeeze that in with dogfighting. But let's say I have a pack member, I'm out of stamina, and I only have one pack member and I see a Tenno, I am not going to send in that pack member on that Tenno. Because I'm out of the fight, etc, etc. And he will just not make it. The 1k damage that I expect out of him will not kill that Tenno. And I cannot expect him to keep his stamina up for the duration that I regain my stamina. So you have to create this minimal amount of members type of system for each fight. And I like to do that with weight, like 1k damage versus weight. A Dibble, 3 tons, I want 3 Raptors. So just to simplify that. That's just the safety net. Now another important factor would be terrain. What type of terrain are we finding our prey in? I kind of regulate this by kind of staying in terrain that favors the Raptor. Because then if we make an encounter, we're automatically in good terrain. But let's say there is something you want to kill, and I've seen this situation plenty of times, where a Dibble is on a cliff, in a corner, or whatever, and they are forcing that fight. You are going to lose members to that fight. Because he is in such a strong position that it only takes one simple mistake for somebody to die. Like, you are pretty fragile, and you need to be very precise with your attack strategies. Of course, if you run into a jungle, you see a Carno who is also not very good in a jungle, you might be able to squeeze that in. Because the Carno is also very strong in plains. So you also have to consider, like, in what type of terrain is my prey good at? If I see a Carno in the jungle, I'll go for him. Because even though I cannot pounce him in the jungle, I know sure as hell he cannot charge me freely in the jungle either. There are too many trees and obstacles for him to just charge. So in that case, I can probably start dogfighting him. Just dogfighting basically means you just bite it, you don't pounce. And that would probably get the job done. But if it's a Tenno in a jungle, we are not doing that. Because you need to dodge a lot versus a Tenno. And one tree or bush or whatever gets you stuck, that means that's just the end of it. Like you get kicked and you won't get up again. So you need to really, really consider the terrain. And as I said, a good way to regulate terrain is by staying in terrain that favors you. So try to maintain presence in plains, open areas. J sector is a good spot for this. South Plains is a good spot. Volcano area, like the area around the lake, is very, very good for this. Like you are very strong in these areas. But the moment you go into, for example, East Plains where the swamp's at, you're not going to perform as well. There are so many objects that can knock you off because that's just the limitation of pounds. And another limitation of pounds is how many are you fighting? If you're fighting more than one, you will not be able to pounce freely because their team members can fight you off. If they have some form of communication or, just brains in general, they will destroy you when you pounce one of them. Now, this can be mitigated by sheer game knowledge. For example, if you back bounce a Stego and a Tenno is trying to kick you, by sheer knowledge and having tested that out, I know that like that Tenno will not be able to hit me and will connect to the Stego. These are little details that you shouldn't play upon unless you know them in and out. So go in Northern admin server, test out things, experiment. Like experimentation will lead to the gain of knowledge, and the gain of knowledge will lead to wisdom in decision making. So I really highly advise that. Yeah, with that little introduction to how I take fights out of the way, I think the best thing is now to just address the species by species. And as you guys know, I prefer to do that on a video to video basis. So they are coming. Sorry to leave you hanging like this, but in case they update the game and change something so drastically, it would invalidate this entire video. So I'm gonna do that separately. But I'm gonna get into it real quick, and they are scheduled to come out really fast. For now, this is just some really good advice on how to lead, how to make decisions. And if you really, really do want to know about the species by species takedowns and how I'd go about them, I will see you in the next one. Seems fine at first glance. Just got baited. Let me check his charge hitbox. Seems fine. Hello. 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 This way. No, not this way. Oh, ooh. Almost. No. No. Ha ha ha. Oh. Oh, I didn't. I'll bet him in the face. Ta 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 ta. Absolutely trolled. I'm trolling hard. wanna try something? Oh, that raptor. Oh, rip my legs. Actually, I'm fine. This body fractured. Ow. GG. Well, only one thing I can do here. Ow. Yeah, it's getting found. Get him.